morning, good evening to each and every one of you joining us here for another episode of Your Manchester. How the heck are you?
I'm very, very well.
Have you had a good week?
A bit of a manic week.
Manic week. It's
Yes.
just don't stop, isn't it?
It certainly
I'm waving my head around because it's just all too much.
It's always a busy day at Your Manchester.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
It is,
Yes.
We've got a marvellous show tonight.
We have been.
We really
Yes.
have.
Who have we got on?
I am excited. Now, I first saw this gentleman back in Queer as Folk,
Yep.
and ever since then he's gone to different TV projects and different things, and he's now going to be appearing in the theatre. That is, of course, Jason Merrells, everybody.
Ah, yes, that's right. And you've also been talking to Jay Aston.
Because I'm making my mind up. Yes, one of the originals from Books Fizz is joining us a little bit later on, so we're going to be talking to them about a fabulous tour that they've got coming up.
That's right. And we're also going to be looking at a very important issue indeed, and that is hate crime.
That's right, we've been sent a video. We want to really delve into this, and we want you to join us and give us your information and your experiences of hate crime, if you possibly could. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, it's a packed show. We better get on, haven't we?
Let's crack on.
And try to look as if you don't care less. But if you want to see some more, bending the rules of the game will let you find the one you're looking for. And then
Well,
you can
joining
show
us now is
that
one of the
you
original
feel
members of Books Fizz. Yes, indeed. I'm sure you're all thinking, making your mind up, but this next person we're about to introduce has had an illustrious career, solo songs, and of course part of Books Fizz, which is now the Fizz. She's joining us now, the one and only Jay Aston. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
This
How you
is I'm quite all right. I mean, technology has been our special friend today,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
It has been, yeah. I'm rubbish at it. And if anything goes wrong, I mean, I did have my puppy running in the middle, chewing the cables, and then 2 people arrived and a delivery. But we got there in the end.
We're here, and that's all that matters. Let's go back to the beginning then. You joined Books Fizz, and in 1981, making your mind up at the Eurovision Song Contest. That must have changed your life.
Oh, it did. It was amazing. It really was. It was funny because my brother represented the UK the year before in a band called Prima Donna, and I think they came 2nd or 3rd. And I watched him do it, and it kind of inspired me. But the crazy thing was, I'd been doing a lot of like dance auditions before I went for the actual audition, and I sort of said to myself I was going to do one last audition because I had a job offer in Jersey in the Channel Islands, and I was like, I was going to do that one last audition, and then really the rest is history, because obviously we won Song for Europe, and then winning Eurovision was just a bit of a miracle, really. We only won by a few points, and I think the little dance routine sort of helped. And that song just took off all over Europe, and it charted. And it's, I mean, we're still working today off the back of it. So Eurovision can be an enormous platform.
Yeah, I mean, where did the idea for the tear off skirts come from? Whose idea was that? And what was your reaction when it was suggested?
It was literally, well, we were discussing how we could present the song, and it was very informal. It was Cheryl and I, and it was in the lady who put the band's kitchen, and we were talking about costumes, and I thought wearing mini skirts would get us a few more points. And Cheryl said, well, no, you know, the song's more 50s inspired. We should have like the long rockabilly skirts. So we both were convinced we were right. Cheryl was less keen to show her legs off. I didn't mind, and it was literally a compromise. And she said, "Oh, all right then, you know, like, oh, okay, well, we'll wear the long ones, and then like we'll rip them off in the middle somewhere." And it was actually the lady who was a choreographer who came up with the routine and where it would happen on the line, and if you want to see some more. So it was all just sort of somehow serendipitously meant to be, you know. It's just how it happened.
But then you left Books Fizz, but that wasn't the end for you, because you managed to get out. I used to have, I must say, your exercise album, Shape Up. I used to have that, and that was like the go-to. It was the height of the aerobics era. Everybody was giddy about it. You didn't stop when you left Books Fizz. In fact, you went on to do loads and loads of your own stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, well, even though I wasn't performing, I've always been writing songs, so they were like a bit of therapy in a way for me. So I started writing literally as soon as I left the band, and even though I wasn't able to sign solo contracts because I had a lot of horrible litigation leaving the band, which really was after we had an awful coach crash, I couldn't really see a future for us. So I've written, I've literally just released a couple of albums and another one on the way, which is a triple album. And that album, I started writing them in 1985, 86. So it's literally like my whole life in songs. So there's my 20-year-old brain and my 30-year-old brain. And some of the songs were written for different projects, whether it was a movie or a musical or a random project. One was written for Comic Relief, which never actually ended up getting used, but I thought it was still a good, cute song. So just all random stuff. And I just thought it was time to put it all out.
I mean, you've been doing this now without putting a finer point on it for so many years. You must have seen some pop groups come and go. And of course, you must have seen so many that are trying to emulate the spirit of what Bucks Fizz / the Fizz is and was.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of people try and launch themselves off of Eurovision. Eurovision is a very different competition these days because there's so much more competition, so many more countries. And the pop thing, it's hard, I think, for people to break. I think it's somewhat easier for solo artists to happen. If you look at, there's a lot more solo artists than there are bands these days. And the old model of a band where they all play instruments like, say, Queen, is really hard to break that kind of band or act these days. We are awash with music and different stuff. I mean, you could get lost on social media just looking at all the competition. I think at the end of the day, you just got to do you, be as honest and true, but also at the end of the day, do you want to be a little self-indulgent or do you want to entertain people? And I think at the end of the day, you need to make that choice. And you can have fan base in either direction. But if you want to be out and out, entertain, people generally like to get away from their lives, or they want a light relief. And some people just want to sit in their room and sort of feel certain emotions. And then there's a different style of writing for that. So it's really to just decide who you are and who you want, what your fan base might be.
So when you put a song together for the Fizz, I mean, there's harmonies, very close harmonies, clever harmonies. I think it's easy to undermine you as a fluffy pop group, but actually when you listen to the tracks themselves, they're very, very clever. How does the workings out of it come about? Who decides on what's going to be where and who's going to do what?
Well, it's usually the producer. But I've got to say, in terms of harmony, Cheryl is amazing because she has a natural ear for harmony. And she's the first one to say that harmony is her thing, whereas I think I'm probably more of a lead singer, and I had to learn to tone my tone down to fit in the harmony, and generally I now sing the third harmony. Cheryl can listen to a very basic track that, say, Mike Stock might have put together on our more recent albums, and she'll literally hear the third and fifth harmony automatically, and she'll go, this is your line and that's your line, and she'll sing it for you. So
you're coming to the Indigo Rooms at the O2 on the 28th of June. What are we expecting to see from this show?
Well, it's going to be a mix. It's called Party Like It's 1981. So we have a lot of Fizz classic hits, a few chosen album tracks which are kind of fan favourites, which don't get played that much, and then sort of the second half of the act is more 80s classics, which are cover songs, but are versions of them.
Well, it's amazing. The fact of the matter is you're back now with the Fizz, Bucks Fizz, whichever we want to call it these days, and it's amazing. And the shows, we know we're guaranteed a good night out whenever, just by the sheer volume of music that you guys have managed to deliver since 1981. And we look forward to it. Fortunately now, though, Jay, I'm being told we are out of time after all that shenanigans, trying to get it all fixed. But listen, fabulous to speak to you, and thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
So a fantastic classic play, 12 Angry Men, opens at the Lowry Theatre on the 27th of February. And we're now joined by one of the stars of the show, Jason Merrells. Hello.
Hi.
What is the story of 12 Angry Men then? I'm not familiar with this one. Perhaps tell us a little bit about the story.
Well, it was a play in the 50s and a film in, I believe, 57 or 60. I can't remember whether it was the early 60s.
57, I think.
Yeah. It's set in 57, certainly.
Yeah.
And it was Sidney Lumet's first film. It starred Henry Fonda and Lee J. Cobb and a host of fantastic studio actors. It's a wonderful film, and it's about really how our justice system is based upon the idea of reasonable doubt, that you have to be sure before you can convict, and how certain you have to be, really, if there's any doubt, especially when there's something like the death penalty hanging over the result, then you've really got to be certain. So my character, juror number 8, we're all just numbered in this play, comes in with doubt. He's not someone that believes the defendant is necessarily innocent, but he's not sure. And there are too many questions that he wants answered about the way the trial was conducted. So he begins to argue from a position of doubt. And slowly, with the help of the other men in the room, that argument builds and grows to a point where he starts to turn the tide the other way. So it's a fantastic sort of evocation of what our justice system is, and it's a brilliant character study of 12 very different men and how they reach some kind of agreement. It sounds quite dry, but it's very intense, and it's rather wonderful, I think, as a piece. I'm very happy to be doing it.
It is very tense, isn't it? So as an audience, you're really drawn in. Have you had any kind of reaction during the performance from the audiences?
Lots of reaction. Yeah. I mean, people really enjoy it. It's very funny as well. I mean, the characters in there are fantastically drawn, and they're from all sorts of social strata of kind of 1950s New York. But I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere in the Western world, really, I suppose. But Michael Greco plays a very funny part. And there's lots of humor in it. And people are reacting really, really strongly, really well. It seems to tap a nerve of, I don't know, some kind of somewhere where we are at the moment. It seems more pertinent than it did, for example, when I did it in 2015. It seems much more pertinent now and much more something that should be seen, I think. Yeah.
And what's drawn you to be involved within this then? What is it within this text and this piece that's drawn you to want to get involved with this?
A great part and a great script and a great story, which is, hopefully the main thing that draws you to anything. Not always the case, but, ideally that's the thing that draws you to anything. So, I mean, I loved the film as a kid. I'm of that generation where there wasn't much content on the TV, so they used to fill it with old movies. So I grew up, afternoons, Saturday afternoons, late at night, watching old movies. So I'd seen this as a kid a couple of times and loved it. I loved the photography of it. Loved Henry Fonda's performance in it. So I knew it. It was sort of in my cultural gut, as it were. So when it came up to do, I jumped at it.
I mean, you've appeared in so many things. I've just been rewatching Clocking Off in the past week or two, which is, it's still fantastic series.
Yeah.
So you've done lots of TV, you've done lots of theatre. Is theatre the first love?
I suppose it's where I started. Yeah, in fringe theatre, really, devising stuff and physical theatre, that sort of thing. That was my beginnings. I love both of them. I think that they're just methods of delivery, really. When you're in a theatre, you've got to make sure you reach everyone and you can be heard, and the moment that you're trying to express kind of lands in the right way to people. When there's a camera in front of you, it might be 4 foot away. You don't have to do that much, because the method of delivery doesn't need to be as heavy, So but I think essentially they're the same thing. when you're on stage, it's your medium. It's down to you, you know, and you drive it, and you have to climb that mountain every night and make sure you tell that story every night, because everyone deserves to hear the story fresh and deserves to hear it as if it's the first time it's ever been told. So that's challenging, and it's always down to you to do that. When you film stuff, you know, so much of it is to do with how the director sees it, and then so much of it is to do with how the editor frames it and cuts it. And it's not your medium in the same way. Yeah, I mean, you can do brilliant stuff. You can be very involved in the creative kind of genesis and center of it, but ultimately your work is cut up and sort of used in a kind of collage way by someone else. So when you're on stage, it's you control that collage to a certain extent, or the experience that people are feeling. So that's a bit of a buzz. That's nice.
Why acting for you? Why did you get into acting? What was the love behind all that for you?
Always loved movies. So I was obsessed with movies. Me and my brother both. My brother went to art school. He's a bit older. My brother went to drama school, rather. He's a bit older. But I went to art school. So when I came out of art school, I was already in fringe plays. And I don't think I had I'm much better now with discipline of painting and, you know, just me and the object. But when I was younger, when I was 20, I was like, I wanted to party, and I wanted to have collaboration, and I wanted to be involved with a group of people being creative, and theatre was much more fulfilling. So that became what I did, really. I mean, I did loads of jobs, but I basically worked in fringe theatre for 5 years, devising, taking stuff to Edinburgh, taking stuff to different festivals. And then after 5 years, I finally got a sort of big gig, which changed things. And that was the time, I suppose, I thought of myself primarily as an actor.
Now, this is a Bill Kenwright production, and Bill obviously sadly passed away not so long ago. A great contribution to British theatre that Bill made, didn't he?
Yeah, no, it was really, really sad. I mean, he's such a character. I've worked for him, including this 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a show in the West End that he produced in 2016, How the Other Half Loves. So I got to know him a little bit there. I mean, he was such a lovely man, a character. And what a legacy of bringing theatre to people that didn't think theatre was for them, which I think is an amazing thing that he achieved. And so many hits, and so many across the world, so many productions, and so many touring productions. Such a kind of engine room of theatre, when theatre often struggle to do anything. So, I mean, an amazing legacy and a great man. I'm just glad I said yes to this, actually. I mean, I said yes to this, and literally, I think a couple of weeks later, he passed away, if not less time than that. So, but I know that he was very involved with every decision. So I feel nice that we connected before that happened.
Well, we're very much looking forward to this show. It's going to be fantastic. When's it on?
27th of February to the 1st of March at the Lowry.
Looking forward to it. For now, though, Jason Merrells, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hayley and welcome to Your TV. Now, this February, I really do recommend the show Poker Face. It's available on Now TV and Sky, and it's about Charlie, who can tell who is lying. Absolutely anybody, just by the look, by anything. She travels around America, and on her travels, she comes across lots of crimes, and she cannot resist solving them. It actually stars Natasha Lyonne of Orange is the New Black, and it's clever, it's witty, and it's totally refreshing. I definitely recommend that one. I actually missed out on a show called Loudermilk a few years ago, but I've come across it. It's on Netflix, and there's 3 series, and it's about Sam, who is a recovering alcoholic, and he's also a substance abuse counsellor too, and he soon discovers that being sober and clean is actually the easiest part. Now, it's sharp and it is sometimes dark, but it is absolutely brilliantly funny too. Give that a watch. That is on Netflix. And if you haven't watched Domino Day yet, do. That is on BBC and BBC iPlayer. Catch up on all of that you've missed, or watch it all in one go, which is what I did. I loved it. It's set in Manchester, and it's filmed in Manchester, and it's about a young witch who cannot resist taking the energy from other people, from human beings. Give that a watch. So that's my top 3 for February. That's it from me. I shall catch you next time, and remember, stronger together. Bye.
Hello and welcome to this week's walk. We are in the borough of Tameside in the town of Aston, and a bit of a different setting for me this week. We're not walking down a road or a street, but we're going to walk around a garden. Now, these gardens are used by the public and used for events, but they're actually in a bit of a special setting because they're at the grounds of Willowwood Hospice. Willowwood Hospice serves the borough of Tameside and Glossop in Derbyshire, and it's used for a whole range of services. And it costs around £3 million to run those services. So to give you an idea, the hospice is run and owned by charity. A lot of volunteers work here. And that £3 million has to be raised by lots of fundraising activities, by legacies, jam making, jumble sales, all that kind of thing. The grant that comes through from the government, through the NHS, that covers about 20% of the running costs. And that's sort of true of most of our hospices across the UK. They were all established by charities, by volunteers in their local communities, and now provide really services that, well, we couldn't do without. So if I say that I'm in a hospice, what does that make you think of? Probably end-of-life care. But actually, hospices provide more than that. They provide day services, drop-in services, services for people with dementia and their carers, breathing issues, occupational therapy, all kinds of things, largely to keep people living at home and providing support for those that look after them. It hasn't got to be life-ending diseases, it can be life-limiting diseases. And so a lot of the services we probably don't come across until the point where we need them. And then we're glad that they exist. These gardens are open each year under the National Garden Scheme in the summer, and they also play host to lots of events. So why don't you have a look at willowwood.org.uk, and you can find out all the information there about events that take place here. And why not check out the details of your local hospices? They really are worth supporting. I'll be back for another walk next week.
Well, it's a very important subject, and I think it's something that we here at Your Manchester cover because it seems to be quite prevalent at the moment. This is, of course, the story of hate crime. Now, do you know anything about this situation?
Well, I've certainly, I haven't particularly experienced it myself, but I certainly know people who have had, abuse in the streets and felt very uncomfortable. And you must have certainly encountered it in and around the city centre.
It's a very, very strange one for me because you get called an awful lot of names and it's like a whole new level of bullying. And in my opinion, bullying is just not clever.
No, and you get people who kind of say, well, you have to accept it, and you don't have to accept it, or you shouldn't have to accept it, should you?
No, absolutely not. We've been sent a VT about this very subject and we'd like to share it with you now.
My name is Elle. I use they, them pronouns. I'm 18 and I identify as being queer, trans and part of an alternative subculture.
My name is the Reverend Dr. Augustine Tanner. But you can say Gus. I'm African American. I'm a gay man. My pronouns are he, him. And I'm also a person with hidden disabilities.
I've had people come up to me and tell me their opinion on gay rights, how being gay is a sin. Specifically, teenage boys would come up to me and talk to me about and ask me really invasive personal questions about like my sex life, even though I was only like 13.
I was in a queue in the village and someone said the N-word to me in the queue. And I remember a lot of people just not doing anything about it. And it was quite aggressive, and I thought I was going to get like physically harmed.
It was the first time I was out in university, like a proper club, and I noticed a group of girls filming me, because of how I was dressed, and I could just like see them laughing and pointing at me. And it did kind of make me a bit scared to go out clubbing, and I still avoid that bar now.
They see that I'm black. They hear that I'm not from here. You're not from around here. I'm like, you're not from Disbury. Like, no, I'm not. It affects my daily life of how I build relationships, how do I speak to people, how do I, go to the supermarket.
It made me feel kind of lonelier than like I thought a typical teenager was supposed to feel.
We are all so multifaceted people. We have all different streams. We're all intersectional in how we all are as beings.
Greater Manchester stands together against hate crime. Report it at letsendhatecrime.com.
Well, All Killa and No Filla, they are fantastic. It's a duo that is literally sweeping the entire breadth of this very country. Joining us now is the very gorgeous Kiri, Pritchard, McLean and Rachel Fairburn. Welcome to our show. How are you both?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Looking very glamorous, the pair of you today. No problem at all. Tell everybody, what is All Killa, No Filla?
Well, it's a true crime podcast. We've been going for 10 years now. We started in Manchester in a back bedroom, and now we're going on a 10-year anniversary tour.
So how does an idea like this come into play then? Where did the idea come from?
I think we both had an interest in true crime, and then people had kind of sort of tried to sort of almost matchmake us as comedians, because we weren't meeting on the circuit, and they were going, oh, I think you get on with Rachel, or I think you get on with Kiri. And then we met at a house party. One of us got put to bed early, but I'm not going to name names. They can volunteer themselves if they're happy to come forward with that information. And then we decided, we got on really well, and we decided, okay, let's give it a go. And I remember 10 years ago, we were like, maybe we shouldn't do a podcast because everybody's got a podcast. And we had no idea that actually everybody and their dog would end up having a podcast. So we started doing it, and then it's just caught on big in America as well. And we got some lovely coverage, and now we have, hundreds of thousands of people who listen every month, which is lovely. It's on YouTube now, and we're embarking on our biggest ever tour for our 10-year anniversary.
And Rachel, what do you think the success has this been? What is the secret ingredient that you've managed to find that's enchanted so many thousands of people?
I think what it is it's, a genuine friendship. It's two women talking to each other, how women talk to each other. We've not been engineered or put together, we just talk about our lives as well, talk about things that are, people consider relatable. I think that's probably it. And we do our best we do a lot of research, and we do our best to give as much sort of information on the victims that we talk about as possible, because obviously they can be quite overlooked in true crime. But I think it's just the fact that, I don't know, we talk to each other how two friends talk to each other. I think that's been the biggest sort of attraction, really.
And Kiri, has there been a favourite story that you've covered on the podcast?
Oh, are you asking me if we've got a favourite murderer? That's quite forward, isn't it? Do you know what? There are cases that I'm definitely more interested in. BTK, Jeffrey Dahmer, they're ones, and H.H. Holmes, they're sort of cases that I'm really, really interested in. So it's hard because sometimes I'm really fascinated because it's someone I've been interested in a long while. Sometimes it's someone I've never heard of, and it ends up being really interesting. The episode that we've got coming up in a couple of months is that I'd never heard of this serial killer, even though they're very prolific. And then sometimes it'll actually be the chat that we end up having off the back of it that is the joy of it. So I think I couldn't pick a favorite episode. It's like picking a favorite child. But one thing I like about it is I never know which bit I'm going to enjoy, whether it's the chat with Rachel or the information we find out.
Well, Rachel, this isn't just a podcast that is confined to a studio. In fact, you're coming to the Opera House very, very soon, aren't you?
We are, yeah. We're going to be doing, that's probably our biggest Manchester show. Obviously, I'm from Manchester. We started in Manchester. We've done smaller venues. We did, I think the first time we did a live podcast in Manchester, it was in the Eagle pub in Charlton, wasn't it? That was the first one we ever did. And we've done since then the Frog and Bucket and various other places. And we're coming to the Opera House now. So it's getting bigger and bigger as time goes on.
So what does a live stage show, Kiri, look like when we come and watch you guys doing this?
Well, it's we say it's got the content of Crime Watch, but the aesthetic of Eurovision. So that's the kind of energy we're bringing to these things. Yes, There's chat about murder. Yes, there's chats about police failings. But are we turning a look? Absolutely. Will there be sequins? Yes. Will there be sequins in the audience? Always. Because our fans, the legends, they always dress up. They always make an effort. We usually have a bit of a Q&A session. We have a chat with them. It's a very interactive show. I mean, before now, when we've been streaming the show at the same time, we've used a hashtag that has ended up trending nationally and was quite a rude one. And it ended up, I mean, I can't repeat what it is here, but it did end up with Prince William's sex being called into question. So this is a beast that cannot be tamed, these live shows.
When are you coming to the Opera House? And, well, when? Because I need to get my ticket booked now, immediately.
Do you know what?
We can get you in. You can cut.
We can sort you out. We can sort you out. We can tell that you've got a great outfit as it is. So already you're going to hit the dress code. But yeah, we're heading to the Opera House. I think it's our second date.
24th of May.
24th of May. Well, we're looking forward to this. I mean, I just want to see how it transfers to the stage. I mean, I listen to it on all the available streaming platforms where you can find All Killa, No Filla, everybody. But to see it live on stage must be an absolute epic night out. I'm thinking a glass of Chardonnay and enjoy what you two girls do. Yeah, right, well, we'll let you two carry on with your fabulous day. But for now, though, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this week.
Never.
I know. Has it not flown by?
It always does, doesn't it?
It feels like we've been in the same place almost all day, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does.
Yes, it does indeed. Yes.
Non-stop. We'll be back though.
We had. I
can hear your helicopter calling.
That may not be a helicopter. Don't forget our podcast on Sunday, which is always worth a listen.
It's very, very good with our Steve Doctor. He's going to be hosting that for us this week.
Yes.
So just tune in. Check us out. Social media, everywhere. Make sure you're joining us all the time. Only on
Your Manchester.